Hello again, friends. Thanks for checking out our videos here in this little series that we do with the Circle of Hope pastors, where we bring up questions that people ask us either regularly or sometimes just one time that we think having a little bit of discussion helps foment some wiser conversations that help move along our process together and be informed by Jesus as the church. So here it is, about 9 minutes of unscripted conversations. And today's question we're responding to is something that somebody asked, and it's really a philosophy, but how are we saying, will following my bliss really fulfill me? And as we do this, I just want to say, we had a little transition. Nate Holfish, our beloved Nate, is now in the role of Director of Operations, and our newest pastor is Ben White. So welcome, Ben. Why don't you get us started here? Will following your bliss lead to your fulfillment, do you think?
I'm honored to start. I would say that I guess we have to define fulfillment and what that means. I think that someone who's saying following their bliss would lead to their fulfillment is going to say that self-actualization is the utmost thing for human experience, and maybe that's what they're defining as fulfillment, like completing their idea of themselves, living up to the potential that they believe they have, or something like that. So um, I guess it's maybe if that's what you're going for, um, but I don't think you're going to succeed in any way by following your bliss or anything else. I think you'll probably fall short.
There's this idea that Joseph Campbell talked about. I think he might even have coined this phrase that if you follow your bliss, you are doing what Ben said, was the being that you're doing what makes you feel passionate, so that you're not just following around some obligation or someone else's determination of what you're going to do, but you actually are yourself. But the thing that I think is the trap, because his idea was that the bliss was like a track that was already predetermined in you, that you could find it. If you just if you're finding your bliss, you were finding that thing that was the real you, that was within you all the time and had been somehow stolen by society, or squashed by your parents, or just a matter of you not recognizing it yet. So you had to get rid of all that stuff so you could be, I think, kind of fully alone as yourself, and being content with that sense of bliss. And I'm not sure about that, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not sure about that as well. The big question here is, who gives you your desire? Where do you get that from? Most of the time I think that commercials give people desire. Capitalism gives people desire. And as you pursue your bliss and your desire, you might be taking away someone else's. If you live in community, you might be working on some bliss that comes from God. Like the psalmist in Psalm 37:4 says, the famous verse, "Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." God gives us our desire. God gives us our bliss. So as we pursue Him, I think we find that kind of fulfillment.
Yeah, and that is antithetical to the sort of philosophy that I think is behind the question. That God gives us our bliss. That's a revelation. I don't know. I don't think even anyone that doesn't know Jesus, and a lot of people who are trying to know Jesus, don't believe that's true, because they buy what the commercials tell them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wonder.
Josh, was that right?
Well, yeah, I think that's what people think. Just from my personal experience, I don't know what it's like to arrange my life around my bliss. There's plenty of things that I enjoy that I get to do sometimes, things that I find like, learning something, overcoming challenges, hobbies, passions, interests. I have a lot of these things, but my life is built around the cause of Jesus, and that comes with a lot of things that actually aren't very blissful. Some days my head doesn't pop off the pillow, and I know that I'm trying to, I find joy a lot of time in the work too, but this cause, we're like fighting evil. We're going against oppressive systems. We're trying to like do cultivation of beautiful things in harsh territory. So for me, at least my adult life, I don't have that experience with trying to like just actualize or something, because that's not been my goal.
Well, I even know some Christians that are kind of do this inadvertently, I think, and they end up being alone. They can't figure out how to be in community. It's a very, I think, like
Mm-hmm.
Rod was saying, it's a very isolated individual thing.
Yeah, I think Johnny was alluding to the idea too that it's kind of I mean, I think he was kind of going on a capitalist tack on this too, where I think the notion is if we're all following our bliss, then somehow this all comes together with the best of all possible worlds. That there's not really another option, that you can either be dominated by something you don't want to do, or you can basically do what you want to do. And if you don't get to, that's the worst thing that can happen to you, because there isn't anything else. That's the best you can do. And we're saying that, well, no, really our system isn't that closed, and we aren't even that closed. We actually have something that's beyond whatever might be our present bliss. That actually we are promised an eternity of something about bliss,
Absolutely.
that comes with our relationship with God. So I find it very restrictive. That whole notion seems very almost like a strange law that makes you and that condemns you in a new way. That if I haven't
Yep.
found my bliss, all I have is this constant dissatisfaction because I didn't find it. And how many people do you know like that? That they just really are still looking. Um, you know, isn't that what most Sting songs are about?
It's such a good point, Rod, that our bliss is ultimately found in this eternity that we're creating now and moving into. Um, my suggestion, if you're wondering about if bliss is fulfilling, would be to read Paul's letter to the Philippians, where he's in jail struggling with um, the turmoil of life. And he even says, "For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain." He's having this experience where he doesn't know whether living or dying would be better. But I'll just give you one verse here where he says, "I want to know Christ, to know the power of his resurrection, to participate in his sufferings, and become like him in his death." And so somehow attaining resurrection, that's the bliss that we're talking about. And so sometimes when we become like Jesus in his sufferings and participate in his death, we're not getting the kind of satisfaction that we think we should be getting. It's not the kind of bliss that's marketed to us. And so I certainly relate to that struggle, but I think that we're finding a deeper fulfillment.
Well, I think a key clause there when you were talking about that verse was, I want to know the power of his resurrection. There's an active spirit relationship we have with God that in itself has bliss. That resurrection
True.
is even at work now, and that's a lovely thing.
Anyone that has done some traveling to the either war zone areas with some of our partnering agencies, or has gone to Haiti post-earthquake, usually comes back, at least if I know them, telling stories of like, wow, I saw people that had or Scotty talking about Kurdistan, right? And the Yazidi people that got back out of the clutches of ISIS, and saying like the joy and the happiness that they found in those moments was incredible. And it did not have to do with stuff and comfort and these other things that we constantly think will make us happy. But there's something more to happiness even that is not gonna, like, you find happiness where you are, and I think this is what we're trusting the Holy Spirit for, rather than just following what we think will make us happy, as if like the American dream is something to be realized by most people in the world.
That's that great, the good given that we read about in Paralandra all the time. One of my favorite little pieces of literature where C.S. Lewis is talking about how you actually figure out how to receive the good given. after you've spent a lifetime of trying to grasp something that isn't yours yet, which is the human condition before you know Jesus.
Well said. Johnny, you want to finish this up?
I think it's a good question to ponder how we are being fulfilled and to wonder if the bliss of the world will get us there. My suggestion would be to be aware of how you feel, be aware of what your desires are, and try to connect to the church and see if delighting in what God has given us will change how you even think about what those desires are and where you might find bliss. Because for me, I find them in the person of Jesus Christ and his death and resurrection.
Well, thank you, pastors, and to those watching, thank you for even the checking it out, but also for the likes, the shares, and comments, or adding some of your own thoughts. Let's keep talking, and subscribe, and let us know if there's something else that we should be talking about. We'll try to get in there. So until next time, peace.